Hello everybody and welcome to the UNF1 United Racing Series here from the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. This 15 lap track has two DRS zones. First ejection zone is in the Senna S and leads into the sector between 3 and 4 where you can open up your DRS, which we may not have today in the wet, as you can see. And the second sector opens up between turns 15 and 1 if you count 15 as a turn. If you didn't notice, Jonah's not here today. Instead, it's Travis, Donut Glazer, here with Jacob, JMW Films. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good. Trying to watch everybody as they qualify. Really interesting to see. It seems like Cross and Johnny have as far as time goes. We've been all pretty close behind. Johnny has been basically on top this whole session, or one lap that Cross was in the lead. It doesn't seem like Cross has been for the first one, 15-8 Johnny's set. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes down.
So as you saw in the group chat earlier, we had some people. Manuel said he was like 90th in the world in the wet here in Brazil. It'll be interesting to see if he can recreate that. I'm not sure that he will, but that being said, it's very hard to recreate those laps. As you know, sometimes you just have a magical series of events that put you up there pretty high. If you if you had to guess, and I know you haven't watched a lot of these guys race, but do you think that Manuel can improve on what he's done so far based just off of what he says in the chat, as confident as he seems?
So yeah, he said he was 91st in the world, but running on board now, he just had a pretty big moment, I think, in turn
Far
seven.
based just off of what he said.
Is when we beat the pole. He seems like he's kind of got himself back. Hopefully that was just on his in lap, so he got him he's back in the pits. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's got the confidence that he had in maybe some of his practice runs. He's about, I don't know, 4 tenths off where he needs to be if he wants to take pole. So
Right.
we'll have to see what he's able to do. But I don't think with some of the stuff I've been seeing, don't know if he's gonna be able to do that.
That's an interesting point you made too about the confidence. It's one thing to come out and put a time in like that when you're by yourself on your rig and nobody's around you. But in the league, your nerves can really get to you. I've had that happen to me before. Sometimes I get super nervous before races, especially if I'm not 100% confident in the track or with the car. And the wet weather is something that it's easy to kind of push your confidence back unless you're a guy like Max Verstappen. Although he didn't have a great race today, spoiler alert, he does drive a car in the wet like it's a $500 rust box, which is amazing that he drives a $1 million piece of equipment like that. But what is your, I guess, strategy in the wet? Like how does it change your style?
I mean, the big thing in the wet is it's just patience. You gotta wait for that right moment to get on the throttle because as much as you don't want to wait, you just want to hammer down as absolutely fast as possible.
Right.
One mistake and you could be facing backwards and lose a ton of time. So I think it's one of those things they have a decent qualifying set, decently long for an F1 race, but they have some time to I would just, take some time if you're not feeling so confident in the 10 or 100 laps. Just kind of go out there, run the tires a little bit, see how you're going to feel for a couple laps. Because that's going to be a really important thing as we get kind of into the race. You can have a great qualifying position, but even as we saw today in the actual F1 race, if we don't have good strategy, if you don't have good confidence in the wet, you're not going to do very well. You're going to end up falling, making mistakes, and spinning, and that's just not going to put you in a very good position, even if you take, the top 3 positions that everybody's fighting for right now. One spin at the beginning, lack of confidence, and your day is kind of over. So
Right.
damage is also on for this race, so be very careful when you're not out braking yourself when you're overtaking versus especially down to turn 4. It's going to be pretty hairy because that's not, I mean, it's a pretty fast corner, but it's not flat.
Right.
So even in the drive, but especially in the wet, you have to finesse out really well. And that's a great place for you to lose your front wheel if you're not paying attention.
And Johnny with the new fastest lap, 1:15.58. He's 4 tenths up on the field. I know he's in a racing point, but it seems like we're watching a Mercedes in the dry right now. Pepsi Freak and the Donsta have also passed Cross Tommy. And look at those times between second through, well, now sixth. I mean, those are all within, what, half a second of each other. That's pretty wild that we have that little of a spread between this group. And to your point about going into turn four, I know a lot of people like to overtake there, and like you said, it's an easy place to make a mistake and lose a wing or even have a runoff. Personally, I like to try to make those overtakes at 8 and 10. That's just me. I like to try to outbreak people into those turns, and you can set yourself up for those sweeping left-handers after that, where you can kind of cut off in front. Where do you normally jump to make a pass? Is it turn four for you?
I mean, turn 10 is always a great one if you can, keep the car safe like this.
Oh yeah.
Right twisty in there. But if it's, if there's somebody that you're following that you have a pretty significant pace advantage to, then that's one of the places that you can make a move that they're not going to expect it.
Right.
So that's a great place to do it. If you are kind of in the lead and you're getting chased down, one of the things that's always a great strategy to do is they can get a run on you down the pit straight.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay close enough to the DRS again, the back straight again. You can kind of keep and hold them off just by, they take the DRS on you, alright, then you take it right back on them. As long as you're smart on that. The thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to pass off the main straight if you don't have enough pace, if they're just going to catch you again down the back straight, because then you have to sit behind them
For
tight twisty
yeah.
pace, and you work your dirty air, you work on your speed. So be really smart about using the DRS zones, especially because they're right after each other, and you're going to get pushed late in this race, especially because overtaking, will be difficult once that end comes.
Can you did you see that message? Can you check your mic? They're saying you need to either turn up or yell into the microphone. So just give you a heads up. Cool. So Freddie appears to have made it, as we were talking about before we came on air. Freddie was driving. Well, if the cops are listening, he was not speeding while he was driving back to do this race, but hypothetically, he might have been. So Freddie's finally here. He's in the pit. He's probably loading up, getting ready to get ready to do this race. Maybe getting some hydration. We know how important that is. So why is it important that Freddie made it? Freddie is our points leader. If you are new to the league and you're just now listening, Freddie is up pretty big. Cross Tommy's had 2 straight wins. He's been cutting into the lead. Johnny's been there every week with a chance to pass him as we watch Freddie come out for his outlap. It's hard to stay in the lead like this, especially here in the wet, because this kind of opens up everything. In the past, Freddie, Manuel, Johnny, Cross, Pepsi, they've all been super, super fast, and then the rest of the league has bounced around back and forth. We've seen the Donster really fast, we've seen Frecker really fast, we've seen Noah really fast when his pedals work, so, it's good to see Freddie out here. I'm excited for you to see Freddie.
Yeah, for sure. The other person I'm keeping an eye on, because he was talking such a big game before the race, is Manuel, who for a while wasn't looking that quick, but he just banged in a lap pretty recently. He is back on top. I think he's only turned about 2 laps in this whole race, so it's super impressive. He was able to just right out the blocks a couple minutes ago, just fly right up back to the top behind the street with a relatively small gap. That's all you need over John. He's looking very good, so we'll have to see. The guy who just jumped in, he's only going to have probably 1 or 2 laps, depending on how he chooses to fuel, depending on how he works his tires. And so he's going to have to put in a really good lap if he wants to be toward the front. So he's, down to about 13th right now.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to have to basically one-shot qualify for Greg at this point.
And VTR Storm has showed some pace in other leagues, and last week he was fast, but he ran into some bad luck. Curtis is a good driver, so I'm interested to see if he can rebound this week. To your point about Manel, Johnny just passed him 1:15.2, 2 tenths up. Look at that. So Manel's on his outlap, This will be his, basically, like you said, he'll basically have a one-shot lap here to try to beat Johnny. As things are starting to heat up for us, I'm going to ride along with Freddie here on his hot lap and see where we can come in at. Oh, and just to give you guys a weather update, so we mimic the weather at the actual F1 race, so we are expecting it to be wet early and often, and hopefully it'll start to dry out at the end. Now, what does that look like? Does that mean we're going to be on softs or mediums, or does that mean that we're going to let people bald out there? As Freddie goes seventh in the order on his one-shot qualifying there, I'm sure he's not too excited about that.
Probably have enough time for one more lap. He needs to make it. If he jumps another 7 places, he's on pole. So, 14 to 7.
Yeah,
If he gets his shit together,
116.5.
we'll see.
116.5 is not bad for your first lap to come out there, especially in the wet here at Interlagos.
Yeah, you're running the track where it's wet, where the grip is at. He's, I think he could have a shot at top if he can get another lap, and that'll be the big key. I don't know how much fuel he has. Riding on board, it looks like he's about to run out, so he's get back to the pits and get out.
Oh, Manuel jumps Johnny for the lead for the provisional pole. Look at that. That is,
Here, just chopping off the slimmest
I
margin.
know,
He's only, I don't know, 3 tenths of a second up on him.
that's
Just
incredible.
the smallest little snatch of the brake, the smallest little gear change up or gear change. That is, wow, that's so tough.
Johnny appears to have ran out of fuel coming back to the start-finish line, so I don't think he's going to improve his time. I'm sorry, Freddie.
He's cruising along. Hopefully he's not a hindrance to anybody else who's trying to get out the settle hot wall.
So everybody's done qualifying except for Paolo. Sorry, except for Santo. Paolo. Speaking of Paolo and the Ferrari, Paolo was up pretty high early in this qualifying set, but as the guys seem to get heat in their inters and get more lap time in, they seem to shuffle him down the order as he is just outside the top 10. As we see Freccia, our fearless leader of our lovely league here, qualifying ninth in the rain.
There we go. That's the end of our session. Wow, what a tiny gap to pull.
That is really
Really,
incredible.
they stand head and shoulders above everybody else because it goes from them. You get a half second back to get to cross Tommy. So yeah, they're going to be the two to watch in this race. And honestly, with how tight they look, they could easily both have a shot at winning this. And depending on how wet it stays for how long, they could pull a pretty significant gap if they're that quick every lap in the wet. When it gets to the dry, we'll have to see who has the right setup for that. But yeah, in the wet, I don't think anybody can match those two at the top.
Yeah, for sure. And you made a good point about the dry changing not only the setup, but your tire and the racing line, especially if it doesn't flip over until lap, maybe we're two-thirds, three-quarters through the lap, and you're used to braking in certain areas, entering the corner at certain angles. Now we're on softs all of a sudden, right? Completely changes everything. How quickly people can react and change that will be a big story if indeed the weather dries out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw last year in the crazy race that was Germany, a couple guys in kind of the middle of the race went out on mediums because they thought they were going to be able to take them to the end of the race, and
Hmm.
they couldn't even get heat in their tires.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see when it starts to dry up, to see if anybody wants to get ambitious and try to run to the end on mediums, or if they're just going to play the safer bet, go on the softs, get some heat to the tires, and start churning quick laps quick. Because, with the softs here, the big drawback are they're going to be pretty dry by the end of the race if it's, I don't know, still 30% race distance. But the mediums, it's going to take a long time for this thing to fire up. So you really run a big risk of spinning the third.
As we start the formation lap here, let's run down the order. We got on pole Manel Antunes, followed by Johnny R95. Cross Tommy's in third. Cross Tommy has won 2 straight races, and just to kind of give you a heads up about where that stands kind of in league history. Johnny and has also won 2 straight races before, and Freddie won 3 straight races to start the year. So we're going to reform the grid because we lost our host. But to finish my comment about the race record in a row, Cross has a chance to top Freddie for the most races in a row won in the UNF1 League. However, that being said, every time we've had two straight winners, a new winner has appeared. And I know you haven't been here, but my pick for that would be Pepsi Freak in fourth in the Ferrari. He was very quick last week. He's had 3 or 4 straight podiums, and he told me over the week that this was his best track.
Yeah, I mean, I actually raced around this track with him earlier. He was mighty quick. If he can keep his nose clean after the first couple laps and no spins, no wing damage, no nothing, he could be in a very good place. As I anticipate a little bit of argy bargy at the beginning part of this race
Oh yeah.
because I think a lot of people, especially guys like Freddie, could be a little well. But Freddie, who's a little maybe out of position compared to Freddie's real pace in the car, is going to really have a shot versus, you got guys up at the top who probably going to play a little bit more safe with the conditions. I'm really interested to see, if there's any contact from the beginning of the race and how that will affect them. Because if there's no contact, those two guys at the front, with how quick they were in qualifying, they could just disappear off into the distance and build themselves a nice gap in pit two eventually when they have to move. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see as we start to get going.
All right, so we are reforming the grid. Jacob, did you get the invite?
Yes, I did.
Cool. Sorry about that, guys. For those of you watching, Freka, who is our host and our, like I said before, our director, our governor of awesomeness for this league, he lost connection. So we're resetting up right now, and we will jump back into the race shortly. But to bounce off your point earlier, what you were talking about with Freddie and starting off in a position that he is not used to. That's a very good point. So racing in traffic versus racing up front is very different, and some people struggle with that. Race pace and quali pace are also things that are very different for some drivers. From your experience, I'm sure you've started in the back before when you've been quicker than the people in the front. Kind of, is patience more important, or is it more important to be aggressive and try to jump those guys? That way, guys like Manuel and Johnny can't run away from you.
Well, I think that there's two things that'll be super big for him, kind of in the beginning. The first will be what his setup for qualifying was. I don't know because we're reforming the grid if they'll be able to adjust that setup a little bit. If I were him, I would put on a little bit more downforce than usual so you can keep that downforce level up when he's following other cars.
We can't hear the other guy.
If he's able to do that, then it seems like he would have the pace to overtake a few people and get through the beginning. The other big thing.
Other commentator needs to set their voice to allow.
I was actually trying to overfuel a little bit at the beginning of the race if I know I'm starting to go back, and then just run on rich mix for a lot of it, because then that allows you to have a significant pace advantage. And if you burn a lot of that off, you don't care what weight you use for most of the race.
Right.
If you can be aggressive and be smart, it's a great strategy to push up from the front of the grid. Their big thing is get your moves done early, but safely. These are wet conditions. I've been talking about wind damage, but if you are going to make moves, the best time to do it is when you have so much done right at the beginning. So if you have that confidence and if you can make those moves stick, then by all means, I think it would be a really smart thing for him to be really aggressive out the gate and see what he can make happen.
That's really good insight there. And that's a great point about the fuel that I've never considered, and I will probably use from now on. It never occurred to me to put in more and then run on rich, and then you'll burn it off, obviously. And it never occurred to me. That's brilliant. Love that. Love that insight. So, guys are readying up now. We're going to start in 30 seconds. Jacob, can you see the live stream? Can you be the comment guy that can see all that? That'd be lovely.
We got about a couple. We have a decent amount of people in the chat. The other commentator needs to set their voice to allow. Allow or allow?
I think I think they mean loud. Okay, so I just turned him up a little bit in my headphones. Let us know if that helped. I'm not sure if it was my setting on my end. I'm not a tech guy. Maybe Jacob, you could tell me if that helps. I don't know.
I beefed myself up 2 settings, so I don't know if I'm coming across louder. Hopefully,
Okay.
now.
Frecka's power just went out, which might have been kind of why we lost the host earlier. This
Seems
is
like a pretty significant issue in the race.
right. So I think he's gonna let everybody else race. Just guys, pretend we're in a rain delay. That's all this is. Nothing to
Yeah,
see
it's red
here.
flag.
I love it. Uh,
Racing without like sim racing without power is like racing for real without a track. It's not gonna happen. There's no way to make that happen.
you gotta love it. Poor Frecka, man. That stinks for him and the Mercedes. So they're
So
just.
where did he qualify? Who benefits from that?
I think he was ninth, so that automatically bumps somebody into the points. Maybe Paolo into the points.
Let's see as the timing sheet comes up here in a second. Because I think depending on how far up he was, there are going to be a lot of people who just gained a place right off the bat without doing anything.
Right,
Which
and
is
you can't hate
nice
that.
for them.
Did you see?
Well,
That reminds me of was it last week or the last race? I'm sorry, when Kimmy was behind George and George Russell spun,
yep.
and he was like, "That's an easy position. I'll take it."
Yeah, the radio message from Kimmy was great.
I love that.
So, Kimmy had very different luck this weekend, though, in relatively similar conditions. Ended up falling, I think, from 8th to 18th by the
Right.
end of it. Not a great place to be.
All right, so here we are in the formation lap. So this is a little bit different than the qualifying order that we saw. Our previous pole sitter, Manuel, is now 13th as Johnny and Viper Noah have been disqualified from the session. I think last week when that happened, they let them rejoin after the formation lap, so that might not be that big of a deal.
Okay, yeah, they just may not have started off the grid, and they may have been penalized for that.
So as we, yeah, so as we talked earlier about,
Benefited massively from the quote unquote red flag period. He's up to second from 7th.
right.
If he has the pace that you said he was showing in previous rounds, he could really take it to the guys that qualified up toward the top.
So the Red
Something
Bulls,
is off with the Red Bulls.
the Red Bulls were like hitting each other. Jeez. Okay.
And Freddie's backwards.
It's a good start on the formation lap, guys. As now we are migrating the host again, and again, this
It's
could.
actually wetter now than it was in qualifying.
It definitely is. You can see a lot of the pulling. And a part of that,
Early extreme heats.
right? Part of that issue could have been when Frecka reset up the grid, and when he lost power, the game might have just auto sorted everything. So,
Yeah, we have a Renault around as well. Manuel down in 13th.
and if you remember, Manel was in the Williams, and now he's in the Renault. So that's
Custom
interesting.
grid was
Flying
wrong.
all around.
We need
He
to
looks like
restart
he's,
again D.
Playing Dirt Rally and not Formula 1. All over the place, clipping the grass and everything. Doing everything you can to keep that front wing intact and not put it in the wall in formation lap. Manuel trying to warm up his tires a little bit with some burnouts as he gets to the line.
Let's see here. We might be redoing the grid since Freddie. So Freddie's going to restart
I think
everything.
suspend the race. Emoji happy tears. It was gonna be halfway done on time.
All right.
Seem rearing to go. Alright, so we're going, but as we go, the cars start disappearing as people leave the session. I think some of them still want to do this first lap though, so they can get some kind of practice in for the real thing. The Red Bulls have been connected back again.
All right. Freddie just sent an invite, so we're going to reset the grid again, and hopefully Freddie's power doesn't go out.
US for these graphics, by the way.
For sure.
US Insights. Love to see that show up on my screen. And you can just see the cars disappearing one after another.
Alright, did you get the invite from Freddy? Or do you want me to invite you?
I did not get an invite yet.
Alright, let me invite you real quick. For those of you watching, sorry about all the blue screening. We are working through some power issues, some technical red flags.
I just tuned into the stream a little bit. I'm way quiet, so I'm gonna turn myself like really high up and see what that does to it.
Okay. Just so you know, you sound great to me, so I don't know what the disconnect is. You have more experience with that stuff than I do, so if you have an idea, if you think I can help you with my settings, let me know.
Let's try that. I'm probably a lot louder. Can you hit me with an invite again?
Yeah.
Sweet. And I mean, I can put the mic closer. That may be one of the easiest things. Have I gotten any louder at all for you?
Yeah, you're a lot louder in my headset, but I could hear you before, so they should be able to hear you now, I guess. Somebody comment and say yes or no.
Let me hit the stream real quick. I mean, I'm definitely better on stream. Let's see, I can give it more beams. Alright, that's the most amount of beams.
Okay.
Your ears are bleeding. Yeah, you're still, well, yeah, you're still definitely a little louder, but at least I can be heard now.
Are you echoing?
I mean, I may have for just a second because I had the stream pulled up next to me, and my mic is probably very hot right now.
Okay. Because I had an issue with echoing out of my feed a couple weeks ago. I'm just making sure it's not there. Alright.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
Alright, so if you guys hear an echo or he's too quiet, let us know again. And we are resetting the order as Freddy Too Fast, who I like to call Freddy Too Real. Sorry, I flipped that. Freddy Too Real, who I call Freddy Too Fast, is now doing a little setup for us. I think some of the other guys are still in the other race lobby.
We're fighting it out with all the other bots.
They're
trying to get practice done.
I like the idea that post-race, the stewards have to look at an incident, and it's from it's from Pepsi with a bot.
It's just Pepsi and a bot, just like boxing each other off the track. I remember I think it was a couple days ago. I was doing a race and I went into the pause menu real quick to see if any of my rivals had stopped their tires yet. Checked on the race director menu. And I came back in, but before I, clicked the final button to unpause and take control again, I saw my bot push another car off track and joined again, and
Love
I
it.
kept the place. I wasn't gonna give it back to him.
Right.
He was doing my work for me.
Speaking of taking places, one thing I've learned in this league and other leagues is people from different countries have different understandings or expectations of what a block is or what a fair move is. Some people think things are way more aggressive than I would. Maybe it's just because of where, like we're American, so the way I race is, I guess, more aggressive, and I think blocking is completely fair, even if you're faster than me. Like we're racing for a position. But one thing I found was there are people who do not like that. In certain areas of the world. I've raced with Australians, they're very aggressive, which fits in with me, so it's fine. I've raced with some Brazilians who aren't necessarily aggressive in the normal sense. They're more like, if you're in the way, I'll put you in the wall.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I definitely think it's yeah, I think it could be. I think it's also, honestly, might be based on, like, some of the most popular racing series from that country. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
Australia and the U.S. Like, Australia, you got, like, V8 supercars. In the U.S., you got NASCAR. And, like, those are very, like, physical, like, very contact-heavy motorsport, or like a lot of places over in Europe and probably Brazil to an extent. You got, a lot of single-seater stuff,
Mhm.
F1, Formula E to an extent, some stuff in Japan. You got Super Formula, so a lot of the more Formula-focused stuff, especially when you have like open-wheel cars, contact is not as friendly on the cars. When you got like a big NASCAR, a big V8 supercar around you, you can really box some people out. But I think a good like relative rule of thumb, I've definitely been guilty of a lot more than this before. But like you make one move and then you can make a move back to the racing line if you're still ahead.
Mhm.
Like, don't weave down the straight. This isn't Mario Kart.
Yes, that's a fair point. That's the stuff that annoys me is the weaving. It's different if you're trying to break a toe. Like I get that. That's a little different, but when it's out of the
Yeah,
realm of
if they're like half a car length in front of you, don't weave in front of them.
right.
They're definitely gonna try to overtake you, and you're definitely gonna hit them, and both of you are gonna have terrible races because you're gonna spend half of it in the gravel.
Yeah, it's certainly not a racing move at that point.
No, there are other games for those who desire that type of racing. This one just might not be it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make your move to defend, and then if you're ahead enough, then you're allowed to move back to the racing line to hit the apex of the corner. Don't do like Grosjean a couple races ago and just like cut people off last minute as you turn in, because that will get you. Well, I guess for him it didn't get him anything.
Right.
I guess at a certain point that's to be expected of Grosjean. But yeah, be fair, race well. Little wheel banging is okay. Just don't like rear end people. That's the big one that always gets me, especially off the starts. Public lobbies and the starts are just a mess.
Yeah, we had some people earlier this year run into the back of others on a safety car,
Ooh.
which is well, it's a little bit embarrassing. But we've also had a bunch of little incidents like that, and it's part of it, especially when this game does have a safety car glitch. So sometimes it does weird things like tells you you're supposed to be in front of somebody when you're not, and a part of that is what led to some of those collisions. To your point, but I'll tell you one of the most embarrassing things I ever did when I first started sim racing. I was playing GT Sport, and it was a grid start. And so typically on a grid start on that game, I'll turn traction control on, so I get bite out of the start, and then I'll drop it off like normal. And somehow I had shifted into reverse, so when I started, I just drove straight back through the field.
Awesome.
So luckily it ghosted me, so it was okay. But I was just sitting there driving backward, and I was like, I'm such an idiot.
Oh, the ones that always get me are like when somebody in front of me, hits the wall or something, spins like 90 degrees, and the game doesn't ghost them.
Yeah.
So you just slam into the side of them, and then you end up with like a 5-second penalty for annihilating them.
Right.
And then you don't have a front wing. Then you got to spend, your lap going around. You get your new front wing.
Serve the penalty.
You're 30 seconds behind everybody. Then you just get to do, hot lap simulator at that point.
Right, that's about all you can do.
Race, you get the whole track to yourself.
I did a race with some of these guys a couple weeks ago. It was after we did our race at, where were we? Is before, maybe it was Monza, and I raced with probably, I don't know, like 8 of the guys. They decided they wanted one of the commentators to race, so we go into the race, and I'm like all over the place. I just rebuilt my brake pedal because I wanted more resistance, and it was the first race I did, so I wasn't used to it yet. I was all over the place. Again, another racing driver excuse: my pedal wasn't right. That's what it was.
There you go.
So I was in last. It was miserable. We were at Zandvoort, and I think I spun in turn 4, which is really easy to do. And anyway, I ended up getting a podium out of nothing I did. So I had spun, knocked my wing off, pitted. I was basically, like you said, went into hot lap simulator. I'm just driving. Like, there's nothing I can do. I'm in like 8th. So one guy crashes out. I move up to 7th. I'm like, cool, I didn't come in last. That's all I wanted to do. Long story short, race ends, and there were so many penalties above me, it bumped me up into 3rd. So I got a podium.
Sometimes when you have bad you can do is wish for worse luck for your opponents, and that's how you end up in that place. I think we were doing a race a couple days ago, again with some of the guys in this league. We were doing some of the classic cars, so a lot of us, it was around Monza, and Monza, you know, being a high-speed track, everybody was in that, like 2003 BMW, because on the straights you can hit almost 230 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it was so much contact, and like, argy-bargy on the, that's a very like Martin Brundle phrase. There was so much contact in like all the slow sections, because nobody was used to like using a car with that little downforce.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Start
had
fucking the
massive
race
amounts of
brew
power,
down.
but you just could not, through the second sector in Monza, so little grip, everybody was just sliding all over the place and spinning out, and yeah, everybody's used to the power, but not when you have that much of a lack of grip.
So they are waiting on Freccia, our commissioner, to start the race. He's driving his car over to his girlfriend's house because she has power. He has lost power, so sorry for the delay. So anyway, like you were saying, some of those older cars have a lot of power. It kind of reminds me of the Group B rally cars and how like they're basically death traps.
Yeah, those things are wild. Even like, you gotta think, the Formula 1 cars that made the most power are like from the 80s. They were
Right.
those straight, like inline 4, like 1.6 liter, or I think they were 1.5 liter actually,
Yeah.
even smaller than the engines we have now, with just like massive turbos that were, you know, pushing, it was like 7 bar, which is like 65 psi of boost.
Which is ridiculous.
They would make like 1400 horsepower for a lap and explode.
Right.
And they would only get around the lap if the qualifying tires held on for long enough for them to do that. And so
Yeah.
they'd have this, basically they would have this ultra fast, ultra grippy car, they'd race it around the track, and then they cross the finish line and the whole thing would fall apart.
It's crazy how those tires used to work. I know that back in the 60s and 70s, NASCAR had a huge problem with the tires when they went to the super speedway model. Like, the tires would basically incinerate on the track. And when you have 1400 horsepower like these F1 cars had in the 80s, like, it's not hard to imagine that the tires are going to struggle or that the engine was going to completely explode. Like, that is just, I guess the advantage we have now is reliability over horsepower, but it's insane. The amount of power those cars had is insane.
Well, George Russell this last race took an engine penalty, which is like a relatively rare thing now. They only get 3 engines for the season.
Right.
They used to, back when they were doing that much power, they used to have qualifying engines and race engines,
Right.
and practice engines and testing engines, and they'd go through tons of different engines, all tuned to make different amounts of power. They weren't running 1400 horsepower in the race.
Right.
They were probably down 900 or 1000. And then the tire thing, they were also, for qualifying, they had qualifying specific tires.
Mm-hmm.
So they were these ultra grippy, ultra soft tires that were literally designed to do 1, maybe 2 laps. And they were so soft that you really didn't need to warm them up. Like, you couldn't go hard on your out lap.
Yeah.
So
it would just
you just had to go around at like normal car speeds for your out lap, then hammer it on your actual qualifying lap, and then by the time you got to the end of your lap, your tires were shredded, and so you had to trundle around at 60 miles an hour for your in lap again, and you do these massive speeds, but only for the very short amount of time. But the NASCAR tire thing, especially on like ovals, that reminds me of the F1 race in the U.S. in 2005, where like they came and they raced kind of part of the track was on the oval,
Mm-hmm.
and like the tires were just giving up on the ovals during practice.
Right.
So it was this massive fiasco trying to get tires that could handle the G-force.
And then, like, the G-force on a bank turn is on those tires completely different. They're running on a, not that the F1 tracks are flat, they're cambered for sure, but not like 20-degree banking and like Daytona, you know what I mean? Like, it's a completely different type of tire that you need. It's kind of amazing to me that they can run these IMSA cars like at Daytona or Charlotte, and they're going from basically a crazy weird road course onto this huge banking. Like, it's just the way that the tire builds heat and pressure on those different types of track surfaces and banking. This is so different. It's wild to me that you can have a tire compound that can handle both and not really see a lot of issues with it. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, those IMSA like prototypes, the Acura and the Cadillac prototypes go around those bankings, and it's just wild to watch the speeds they get. Even on the, I think they only race on half or, I think it's half of the banking on most of those courses, and especially I think Daytona is half from what I can remember. And they do insane speeds, and then they jump right off the banking, slam on the brakes, and jump in like fly around the infield. And it's it's very, very crazy to see. I remember, speaking of G-forces, like Lewis Hamilton in his Mercedes when we were at Mugello, there's the two Urbiatas in the back. Those are two like cambered corners kind of coming up a hill. He was pulling almost 7G
Right.
through those in qualifying, which is like, that's insane. Even for a Formula One car, like you just don't see numbers like that in like even qualifying for most tracks.
Right. Hey, session starting in 8 seconds. So those of you still watching, we appreciate it. We certainly do. Please follow and subscribe. We have the Instagram UNF1. We got the Twitter UNF1. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you already know about us. So subscribe, watch, follow. We'll be here every week. If we're not, we'll let you know on Instagram. We have a couple of breaks, I think maybe next month.
1 hour
we have
later, LOL.
Anyway, so now here we are. Hopefully we'll have the right order that we had from the previous qualifying. Guess we'll find out pretty quick. Freccia made it to his girlfriend's house and had to go through the whole PS4 process where it thinks it died and then fiery crash and has to reboot and rebuild everything. So here we are. Finally, Jacob, you might get to see a race.
I wonder what speeds he was doing on his way to his girlfriend's house. But anyway, everybody, wake up from your Sunday naps. The race is finally on. Let's get ready to go as we finally load in to Interlagos here in Brazil. I'm excited. Brazil's one of my favorite tracks.
Me too.
And I hope it stays on the calendar for a long, long time.
Right.
I know there's some rumors of another track getting built, but man, this is just like such a classic.
It is. And it's raining very hard. I did not like it at all when I first started racing, sim racing. I couldn't figure out the middle section. Like the other sector 1 and 3, I was fine, but obviously it's not that hard. But sector 2, I was such a struggle for me. It took me a long time to figure out like that section is really about patience and car positioning. And now that I figured that out, though, I love it. I love this track. It's one of my favorites.
There's nothing more satisfying than nailing the second sector in this track. When I first figured it out, it was like the light had come down from heaven, and I finally figured out where my shift points were, where all my braking points were.
Right.
And it's such a satisfying thing to nail a lap around here, especially in the wet, where so many classic races have happened here in the wet. 2016, 2008.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot.
12, like even those three, like they're all wet races. They're all in Brazil, and all but one of them is a title decider. So wait, so is 2007 was a title decider as well in Brazil?
Pretty sure, yeah.
So yeah, that's actually one of my friends I'm talking today, Lewis Hamilton. Congrats to him. He's a 7-time world champion now. He could have been a 10-time world champion had a couple things out of his control gone wrong.
Right.
Or not gone wrong, I guess. He could have won in 2016 against Rosberg. He could have won in his debut season. He lost
Right.
it, in one of the final races. And then in 2012, he had a car good enough for the title. It was just super unreliable. So,
right, and that's
speaking of, titles and race wins, and what leads us around this track, it seems like everybody's a lot more well-behaved on this lap than they were last time.
Right.
Nobody's backwards, nobody's spun. 2 people are, disqualified, but we'll see them back when we get on the grid again.
So one thing I'm excited for you to see is Freddie has been one of the best overtakers, not only in this league but that I've ever really been around as far as sim racing goes. He's very good at positioning himself and kind of hitting the gap and not causing an incident. And also Pepsi freaking fourth there. If you go back and watch last week's race, he was amazing with his defense on Freddie. Freddie ended up getting around him, but Pepsi held that position for a lot of laps, so keep your eye out for that. And I'm just going to run through the top 10 real quick. We got Manuel 1 in the Williams, followed by Johnny. Cross Tommy, our 2-week straight winner, is 3rd, followed by Pepsi in the Ferrari. We got the Red Bulls in 5th and 6th, followed by Freddie, our points leader in the McLaren. His teammate couldn't make it this week. Then we have Viper Noah and the 2 Mercedes of Freka and MFC Don round out the top 10. And we are about to pull up for the start of the Brazilian Grand Prix.
It's all Ferrari powered, by the way.
Ferrari powered. Alright, everybody's locked in as we get a yellow flag in Sector 3 because we're lined up. I love this game. And we're off at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Yeah, it was very strange there as we waited, as we got people all over the place, as the computer thinks Freddy's in first, but he's not. As
We're riding on board with him, though. He's made up, I think he's already made up a position. He's looking to take Pepsi. Out in front, things have stayed relatively similar to how everybody qualified. Red Bull, the Red Bull in 3rd, he's jumped up a couple places. Cross Tommy's down a place, I believe.
yes.
And Freddie already showing his overtaking ability. He's up 2 places off the start.
Okay, and the game's finally caught on to what's actually going on with the order. We were trying to follow along for you guys watching there with different drivers, but it was very difficult with what the CPU was doing there. But like you said, the Donsta has moved up to 3rd, and give you a little background on the Donsta and the Red Bull. Always been quick, as who was that? Freka making a move? He's always been quick, but something always seems to happen. Either he gets bumped or he spins it. Last week he had a top 5, so hopefully the Red Bulls could turn it around, as 2 weeks ago they had a double DNF.
Yeah, it's not something you want to see. Speaking of teams having some bad luck, both Alfa Romeos down out of the points right now. The only person who's behind them is VTR Storm, but we're really seeing Tommy, try to extend some kind of lead, but he's having some trouble because Johnny's really, or not Tommy, it says Tommy's in the lead on my screen.
Right.
Ball's still in the lead. Johnny is right on the back of him.
VTR Storm is in the pits for some reason. Did he have wing damage?
Let's see.
He did. He is getting a new wing.
Yes.
And he will be on the hot lap strategy now.
Yeah, he's going to have to put in some seriously impressive times because honestly his tires aren't really any younger than everybody else's, so it's not like he can extend his stint
Right.
long.
It's not really a good time to undercut.
He's just going to have to be consistent, and at this point, hope for a safety car or, for a miracle or something. He may also try some pretty aggressive strategy later on in the race.
Can you put tires on to see them?
Inters, maybe even, dries if it goes that far.
Right.
Keep an eye on him, because he's also the only person really in clear air.
Mm-hmm.
So he may have an opportunity to snipe the fastest lap if he has the pace. We'll have to, keep an eye on him there in the back.
To at least rescue a point. As I'm riding along with Cross Tommy here, as he's trying to catch the Donsta. Manuel puts in a 120 here in the pouring rain. So the qualifying was on inters. We're on wets right now. Let's see what VRT is on. He's still on wets, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. So Ferrari seems to have went off. Paolo has DNF'd himself. Looks like he looped it and hit the wall.
Alright, we have Manuel again with another fastest first sector. He's slowly starting to pull a gap on Johnny. For the first 2 laps was hanging on pretty well, but it seems like either Johnny had a small mistake or, Manuel is just going after it, because he's already put about a half second on him this lap.
Mm-hmm. I wonder who will blink first for the inters.
So Cross Tommy looks pretty comfortable just hanging out behind the Donsta. I wonder if he's just kind of running around with him to see what his pace is. I don't get the feeling that he's slower than the Donsta because of how close he's riding along his back wing, but one of the things I like to do, especially early in races, is kind of see how other people are going to react. We know the guys in this league have raced with each other a bunch now at this point in the year, but running in the wet we haven't had yet. It's completely different, and people race very different in the wet, so I wonder if he is kind of hanging back to find out kind of what the Donsta is going to do. I guess Maybe that's something we can find out
He's going
post-race.
for it. He's draining his ERS and really trying to push. He didn't get a good enough exit to really make anything happen. I think he's got to really wait and bide his time. If he can match him on pace and just hold behind, save some fuel, save some ERS, and you got to find that one time you get a great exit, drain all your fuel, drain all your power.
Just pump
go
it.
for that move. This is going to take a lot without DRS to get past him this race.
Right. So, as the dry line develops, at what point do you think about moving to inters, or you just stay on the wets right now?
I mean, seeing the rain still come down.
Right.
I'm still riding on Holy Tommy, and it's still so wet. We are getting that dry line for sure, but when there's still water hitting the track, I think it's probably best to stay on the wets, especially if you're trying to do any type of overtaking. Because as soon as you get off that, it's
We
not a
saw
dry
in
line.
Turkey
Ooh.
when you're behind
Gritty
someone
spins and
is
hits the
made as
wall. Looks
difficult.
like he's lost his front wing. Tough break for the Red Bull. I told you, it's the commentator curse. I brought up that they always have bad luck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the guys in the Red Bull garage.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. Oh, he was only halfway through his lap too. It's gonna take him a while for him to get back. So at this point, he's gonna be racing VTR Storm because he's already pitted and he's just about 25 seconds back. So it'll actually be interesting because VTR has been putting down some relatively respectable lap times. I think he's
For sure.
in the pack about 10 or about 5 seconds.
The thing about VTR Storm, this is his second race with us. We know he's quick, but he didn't have it last week, and right now he's in 13th. I wonder what's going on. I would love to know. Maybe we'll get some information from him post race, kind of about maybe something's wrong. As we talked about earlier, maybe his brake's wrong. Something might be wrong with the setup. I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on his time. He has pace now that he has a front wing that exists. And, seems to be comfortable by himself. He seems to be catching the back of the field. F1 down in 12th is actually right behind the Mercedes of MFC Dawn. So if he can catch the two of them, that's 2 places right there at the current pace. He's already closed about another 3 or 4 tenths since I started talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really starting to try to do something about that gap. We'll see if he's able to close it by pit stop time.
And just for the record, Manuel's fastest time is over a full second faster than the rest of the field. As Cross Tommy makes his move on the Donsta, can he hold it in turn 1? Just barely. I thought for sure we were gonna have contact.
That was really close. And
The guy who broke wing never stopped.
Got all this front wing.
Still
That's
with
smart.
broke wing.
Right in front of him, Johnny had a little bit of a moment into turn 1, but he's doing a really good job sticking with Manuel. That gap is fluctuating between a second and a half. And if he's smart about it, he can just bide his time, save some fuel, save some energy, and then when it's pit stop time, if he puts in a really good in lap and gets lucky with his pit stop or a really good out lap, he could effectively jump him in the pits.
So Crudity and MFC Dawn just went in to replace their wings and have switched to inters. So it'll be interesting to see what those lap times are as Crudity almost bangs it into the wall coming out of the pits.
Yeah, I mean if they're quick, which I would say it's probably a little too early for that, but it is raining less. It's not raining as hard as it was before. But if their sectors start coming back pretty quick, we may see some people change over. It looks like there's a relatively...
Change the gap so we can see the speed,
looks like
please.
there's a relatively decent gap for the guys at the top to pit into, kind of between 9th and 10th, where they won't be hitting too much traffic if everybody else has to pit. Oh, everybody...
Viper Noah has DNF'd as he lost it there.
Johnny and Tommy are all in the pits. It's going to be a race to see who can get these pit stops done.
We have a virtual safety car.
He takes the lead.
We have a virtual safety car as Noah spun his alpha and he's out of the race, and it's a tough break for Noah. I know he was super excited about this race. I know he was super excited about racing at Brazil. He told me he was pretty quick here, and to your point, everybody's in the pits now. Will they all go inters? It looks like they will.
That's a massive win for guys at the front like Manuel, Johnny, and Tommy, and actually the Dosta as well, who all jumped in the pits basically as soon as they saw that yellow flag even happen. I think it was even before the safety car was called.
Perfect timing.
The real loser of that was the guy who's right behind them, the guy who is our points leader, which is Freddie. he didn't pit, and he's now
Put
stuck doing
tires
a
on
reduced
so we
lap
can
time
see who is on what,
as
please.
the VSC ends now. Is he going to dive into the pits, or is he going to be, happy on his current tires and see what he can now do from the front?
So we only got VRT Storm, Pepsi, and Freddy on the wets here as we lap around as the virtual safety car is over. And you bring up a good point. It's really a disadvantage for those two, especially if they pit now. The amount of time they'll lose, they'll probably come out just right around 10th or so.
Yeah, it looks like it with the gaps. Pit stop usually around about 25 seconds. Also, something I saw at the Dosta now 3-second time penalty for track limits infringements.
As Freddy dips into the pits, he's going inters.
Okay, here we go. Freddy into the pits. He's already passed by Pepsi, Manuel. Johnny's got him. Tommy's got him. The Dosta is, coming down the straight, and he's, I believe, going to get him as well. It's going to be a race out of the pits, and their race is going to be on now.
Johnny and Manuel are just blowing by Pepsi on the wets while they're on the inters.
So it was the right move. I was wrong. It's time for the inters, and if it's drying out that quickly, then we might not be that far off from dries at about half-lap distance. I know we're only probably about a fourth of the way through, but that might actually be a good shout if you could get heat in the mediums. Hitting on lap 15 or 16, hitting the mediums or taking them to the end of the race could be a smart move.
And shout out to the Alphas. They moved up a total of 6 positions as a team. Epion up to 11th, and Santo is in the points now in 8th. That's a big move for them. As Manuel to set a purple sector, I would assume he's going to break the fastest lap that Caridity just set.
Cool, and I didn't think that they had earned those places on pace, but they did. They both pitted, and both Alphas. And yeah, they're running well. They've been making some gains. VTR has not had a good afternoon so far. He has pitted twice. He's used 2 sets of wets already, and is now on the inters. So he's making good buddies with his pit crew, but he doesn't seem to be gaining much time.
I'll be interested to see if Pepsi can bounce back here. He probably got caught on the wrong tires for too long, and like we said earlier, he came into this race, he felt like he had a really good chance to be competitive and not only get a podium but win. And now he comes out of the pits and looks like 8th position. It's going to be very difficult for him to catch back up with the podium finishers without another safety car, but in the rain, that's very possible.
So the guys at the top have not changed since qualifying, which is really impressive. They've been able to keep their noses clean. Yeah, Pepsi out there having a rough time. He's lost 4 places. Right in front of him, Santo gained 4 places.
Right.
So really moving up. Freddy is still up, holding that station where he got to on lap 1. Got a pretty decent gap to the Red Bull in front. He's gonna have to really put the jets on to be able to catch him. And it seems like he's already losing a little bit of time to the Dosta.
And one secret that Manel has that maybe explains why he's doing so well in Brazil is his Senna helmet.
There you go. That's good luck. Those are good Brazilian vibes right there.
Look at Johnny in the Racing Point. He's trying to recreate another Racing Point podium finish from today.
If he finishes here, he'll match Sergio Perez, which basically means he's an F1 driver at this point.
Yes, it does. As Pepsi is getting very close to the back of Santo here, fighting for 7th position. I'm going to check that out here. Let's ride along with Pepsi as we enter the DRS zone that is not DRS open. He's making the move on the inside here, coming into 4 like you talked about pre-race.
Oh, they're really close.
Oh.
Ferrari powered, but I think the Ferrari gets ahead.
Yeah, he's got him there. He pushed him a little bit wide, maybe, but it all seemed fair.
Oh, the Alpha touches the grass a little bit in his effort to get back around him into turn, I think, 5.
Yeah, and he had to let off there.
The tight twisty section, you gotta really manage that understeer as you follow. Understeer both from the loss of air and also because, pretty wet out there.
That's a good point too, especially in this twisty section. It's so slow compared to the other 2 sectors, and that understeer really can throw you off on your lap time, especially when you're doing stuff like dipping into the grass there.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than understeer feeling around turn 8 and turn 11. Those are the really, really tight corners that are really important to have a tight front end in your car. And if you don't, you're just going to wash out toward the edge of the track and you're going to lose so much speed through that section. Where otherwise the track is a very high speed, flowy section. Those two corners really make you slow down. Be patient with your lap time.
And Freddie gets a 3-second penalty there, so now we're starting to enter into the territory of the race of what are these penalties going to end up doing post-race? Like, how much of a jump are we going to see from some of these drivers? Last week, Pepsi jumped up and got a podium because of a 3-second penalty. Freddie missed the podium by 9/1000ths of a second, or sorry, hundredths of a second, so it looks like we may be creeping up on that sort of an issue again.
Let's see, it looks like Austin, the Mercedes, has a 3-second penalty, so does Cruelty. Santo has a 3-second penalty. MCF Don has a 3-second penalty. Cruelty has so Cruelty is carrying 8 seconds of penalties. He has speeding in the pit lane, that's 5 seconds. Manuel has 5 seconds. Johnny has 5 seconds. The Dosta has 3 seconds. Cruelty has another 3 seconds. That's 11 seconds Cruelty's carrying.
Yeah, that puts him out of the points almost.
That's really brutal for him. He has not had a good day with Stewards. I think there was one more that I did not read. Manuel has another 3 seconds.
Alright.
These penalties are really going to jack up our finishing order here.
So
it looks like Manuel carries about 8 seconds of penalties. He's our other big,
wow.
I guess, big loser when it comes to penalties.
Santo gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting as he completely overshot the Senna S's there. He managed to keep it together and didn't lose any carbon fiber there, but that was a pretty big mess. So based off the penalties, Manuel needs to extend his lead by 6 seconds to beat Johnny. So technically, Johnny is in the lead based off penalties right now.
Let me just double check to make sure Johnny doesn't have any more penalties. I didn't. Oh yeah, Johnny's got a 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty as well.
Oh, okay. So they're about even.
So he only really needs to keep the gap at about 3 seconds.
That's where he is.
I think he's doing a pretty good job of that already.
So I wonder if he knows that. It's hard to keep track for me while I'm racing. It's hard to keep track of that as Epion gets another penalty, as the Alpha seem to be stacking penalties this lap. Lap 13 has not been good to the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, the biggest, still our biggest winner, but I guess biggest losers penalty points wise, is Cruelty with 11 seconds of penalties, which net puts him down in 10th, which is, you know, not too bad considering.
Oh, Santo! Santo has lost it at the pit entrance, and we are under a virtual safety car again. This will bunch everybody up. Poor Santo! There he was, sideways in the track.
Cruelty into the pits. I think he's just going to swap onto some more inters.
Serve one of his penalties, maybe?
Yeah, he's going to sit there for about an hour. Yeah, so I think he served all 12 seconds.
And he got a new wing.
And he's getting a new wing. They're doing full works on that car. But he really didn't lose too much time, at least compared to what it would have been, because everybody's going around at like half pace. So,
yeah.
You know, that was a pretty smart move from him.
Oh.
He just got another speeding in the pit lane. Oh no, never mind. That was Manuel in the lead.
Manuel got a penalty for ignoring the safety car.
Manuel has 13 seconds of penalties up front. That is pretty brutal.
I think Johnny just got one too, but I didn't catch what it was. It flipped over so fast.
Yeah, everybody's speeding the pit lane. It doesn't seem like I guess manual pit is on for this race, but still, like, I mean, we drive at speed limits on the road. I feel like we should be able to do it in the game. Oh, a little bit of touching from Cruelty. I think he may have just damaged his front wing. He's getting really close to Epion. And I think there was a little bump on the rear wheel of Epion from Cruelty. Oh, Cruelty sending it up the inside, really getting touchy in there. That's really tight, and I don't know, is he going to be able to make it stick?
Ooh, he's out of the line completely.
It looks like Epion could get him up this hill if he gets a good enough exit. He's got over to Ick, he's got full energy too, he's draining his battery. He's going to have a lot of closing speed when he gets to the end of the straight.
Cruelty has 90% of his ERS. He's on overtake now too. He knows he's there.
It looks like he's going to just, you know, punch that little bit of energy just to keep him ahead. But You know, Epion's got a lot of toys to play with between fuel and his energy, and doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Honestly, he's already dropped him by a second in Fidelity, so he's going to need some more if he doesn't want to finish last with his penalties, but still, that was an impressive move. As long as he doesn't have too much wing damage, or any wing damage for that matter, he can now get on with the business of catching MCF Dawn.
So, I wish we had a little graphic we could put up for this, but MFC Don is going to be under investigation post-race by the stewards for his incident with Paolo. Apparently he pinched down on Paolo pretty hard, and that's why Paolo spun out and is now out of the race. So we'll see post-race. Check out Instagram for the final verdict there.
Yeah, these penalties are going to really mix up the finishing
Yup,
order here. The
Don
field
Step.
seems pretty spread out now. The two people that are still very close are our two leaders, Manuel and Johnny. Both of them carrying a bunch of penalties, as everybody is in this race. But headed up the pit straight now. Johnny having a lot of problems on the exit. Got stuck in fourth gear for a second. Some kind of transmission issue, it seems like. But you know, he's caught him back up a little bit now, and man, they're just holding that gap at about a second and a half. It kind of keeps fluctuating. Now it's 1.7 down to a second and a half. Honestly, it depends on where they're on the track. It seems like Johnny's pretty quick in a straight line, but Manuel has that downforce around the corners that Johnny just can't match. So as we go around this second sector now, Johnny's probably going to fall back a little bit, and then they'll jump back up on the straights, and we'll catch right up again. And they're just going to keep playing like this until either of them has to go for a full pit stop.
This Pepsi, we got Pepsi going on the outside of Freca there into turn 1 down through the Senna S. He will make the move on the Mercedes. That was a brave move, as he's now moved into 6th place, as Freca will try to fight back coming down into turn 4 as he now moves to the inside. What a battle here between Pepsi and Freca. This is probably the most excitement we've had all day. And Freca spins!
He ran out of something. Ran out of talent, you know?
Tough break.
Yeah. So hopefully he doesn't lose too much time on that spin, because no, it doesn't seem like he did. Because at a certain point, you know, you spin too much, he's going to be in the clutches of his teammate MCF Dawn, who's about
Right.
18 seconds down the road. But he owed 13 seconds now, so he lost about 5 seconds in that spin. And so Freca now has another 5-second gap to Pepsi. Pepsi's got the same amount of time up to his next target, Freddy. So he's going to need to start getting the hammer down. But it looks like he's pretty safe from any attack from Freca for now.
Yeah, Freca's doing some nice drifting here through these turns in the slower section there. You gotta love it. So today, that was another spin we saw from a Mercedes today. Freca doing his best Bottas impression there in turn 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the race today, he had a lot of references to follow as far as how to spin your car around. People were all over the track. Staffen, Albon, Bottas, like a bunch of times. The only person who didn't spin is the person you always expect to, Sebastian Vettel.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it was wild. He was on a flyer today.
Max had a really good spin where he basically did 2 180s and didn't hit anything. I really enjoyed that spin.
So you're talking about when he lined up that DRS pass on.
Yeah, it just didn't work.
So I was sitting there on my couch, and I was sitting there watching with one of my friends. I looked over to him about 3 laps earlier when they enabled DRS, and I said, wow, that back straight has a massive kink in it, and in the wet, that will not be flat out. If you use DRS down that straight right now, you will go flying off because you will lose all of your rear downforce, and you're not going to be in a good position. What do you know, 3 laps later, Max goes for it, and he is sideways with no damage, but basically lost his chance to win the race at that point.
Correct. So Manuel picks up another 3-second penalty there. As Johnny's gotten the lead to under 2/10. He's right on his back wing now, though, Williams.
He's really pushing. It seems like he backed off a little bit to save tires, but he is doing a Hamilton-esque, you know, charge, where, you know, he's backed up for a couple laps, but really he's starting to put the pressure on. He closed a ton the last lap by a full second, and he looks like he's still got plenty of energy and fuel to play with as he starts to really get into the business of passing Manuel for the lead.
So most of these guys are at about lap 10 on these inters, so we've definitely entered the pit window of maybe one last stop. On these, especially if it keeps drying out, we might see some mediums and softs here. Although, like you said, with the rain still falling, I'm not sure I would want to do that, to go to slicks.
Yeah, it's just I don't see it being ready for slicks for probably another. I don't know.
Is Johnny going to try it on the outside?
Slow down running. Ooh,
He's got himself set up here.
can you keep that inside?
Oh, very close. That was a brave move, but I don't blame him though. We've already seen a pass there, so it's not
See
a,
if you can get it down into my favorite spot in turn 4.
might be back.
They're following really close. Johnny's doing a nice job not getting too disheartened by his failed move there. He's gonna have to stick behind him through this tight sector, and then try another one. It seems like he played his cards a little too early though. He probably could have stood to get even closer and get an even better launch.
Yeah,
On the final turn.
just one more lap.
Always 2020.
Right. We got a cool view here of the tire here as we follow along with Manel. And to your point about making the late charge there, I wonder if, and this would be really deep into the strategy pool here, but I wonder if he was testing him out to see if I can catch him. What does it look like when I try to pass him? How good of a defender is he? This is Manel's second or third race in the league. Johnny hasn't probably been racing with him a lot. It's a good kind of way to kind of poke the bear in the lead and kind of see what he has.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how long Manuel's gonna hold him off. We were talking in qualifying. He had big talk from the beginning of the race, ranked 90th in the world or 91st in the world in qualifying on this track in the wet. So yeah, they're gonna follow each other down to turn 4. He's really close this time. He could realistically go for a move. He's only 2.5 tenths back and only closing. He's draining that ERS, going for an overtake. Let's see if he can make it work. Oh, very clean from the two of them, but sadly he was not far enough ahead into that corner to make that happen.
Well, at least he didn't spin it like Frecka did in the Merc. So keeping keeping the thing pointed in the right direction is half the battle sometimes.
That's true. 20 points is always better than no points.
Exactly.
That's the place that Johnny's in right now.
And he really needs it as Frecka goes into the pits. Let's go down here. I'm going to see what he is switching over to. Let's see if he's pulling the trigger or staying on inters. He is staying on inters.
That's an interesting thing. I don't know if his tires were just that burned up. Let me see how many stops he's done. So yeah, Frecka has done 3 stops. That's his second set of inter. So maybe he felt like his pace was dropping off or something like that, but I am not exactly sure why he would have made that stop, because it seems like the inters will run pretty long. Even from what we saw in the race today, Perez went like 50 some laps on his inters. They had worn down to slicks at that point, but I don't think like 20, 25 laps is too much to ask. Which is, about a little less than where Frecka was at. So I think he could have gone even longer. Now he's put himself a little bit on the back foot because he's basically a pit stop behind his teammate who was catching him pretty rapidly that race, or that no wait, his teammate's a pit stop behind Pepsi.
Right.
He's put himself pit stop behind Pepsi and Freddie, who were the 2 people he was really going to be challenging.
So it's interesting. I guess the question is he going to ride those tires the rest of the way and hope these other guys pit and maybe he can pass some of them on strategy, but he's 25 seconds or 28 seconds behind as his teammate now is in the pits. He's so far behind, and Don gets a penalty for speeding in pit lane. It's very easy to do. He's so far behind some of these guys, though I'm not sure that strategy will actually work.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if he can turn the pace up, he's gonna be rapid over these next couple laps. But as he gets to the end, if the inters weren't lasting long enough for him on his first stint, man, they're gonna be destroyed by the end of the second stint on the inters. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I don't know if that's going to be the best strategy call for him, honestly. He's now got 30 seconds out of his teammates pit, 30 seconds the next car up the road, which is Pepsi and Freddie. So the top 6 are really segmented into like 3 groups, where you have Manuel and Johnny about a second apart, and you have the Dosta and Cross Tommy, I guess Cross Tommy then the Dosta, about 3 seconds apart, and then you have Freddie and Pepsi about 1 second apart. So they're all kind of individually fighting it out for those places. And those are all the closest guys on the road. Also, VTR Storm is looking real close for that final points position. We've had 3 DNFs this race. So there will only be one driver, unless more people DNF. There will only be one driver who finishes outside the points.
You definitely don't want to be that driver.
Yeah, you definitely don't. So BTR's doing his best to not be. He's trying to line up a pass on the Alpha. See if he can keep tight within this sector. It'll be interesting to see if he can make a big run on him going into going into turn 1.
Right, down the pit straight there. If he can get a good run out of this last turn here. And well into the pit. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm a little, unless these tires are going off way faster than I would have thought, I'm a little confused why so many people are pitting now, honestly. Manuel serving his 2 hours of penalties.
As Epion comes in the pits as well. Show me Manuel. Let's see what kind of tires we're on. We're back on the inters for Manuel. Cross is on the inters.
I'm board with Manuel right now, and I see a warning that says he might be a little low on fuel. And I believe he just hit the wall and pit exit.
Oh wow.
Let me confirm that.
Right on board with him now. We're cruising down to turn 4. He seems okay, aside from the gas warning.
Yeah, no, I think he might be good, yeah. He's just, maybe he worked his fuel a little too hard trying to stay in front of Johnny. It's be interesting to see what kind of lap times Johnny can do though now, because he's in clear air.
Right.
So if it's time for fastest lap, he wants to take that away from Manuel too.
So we got
he's got some time to do it.
So we got a nice battle between Pepsi, Cross, and Freddy here for 3, 4, and 5, although Pepsi and Freddy have not pitted. Cross came out on his new inters in between these guys and is immediately trying to find a way around Freddy, which has proven to be a little bit more difficult than Cross probably wants. But Freddy's a good driver, and he's got a podium spot now, although, of course, after he pits, he'll lose all this time. But that being said...
Cross can get ahead of him. He'll be a full pit stop ahead.
Right.
It's a great place to be, especially in a race, where you could have to pit at any time to go back onto a different compound. So this is super crucial he gets past Freddy. If you're Pepsi, you're sitting there back like, okay, you guys fight.
Yeah.
It's up to you guys, and you know what, I'll take both of you, but looks like he's not going to get that opportunity.
Cross has got him.
Realizing his fresh tires.
And Manuel has passed Johnny for the lead as we were watching that battle, while Johnny was in the pits. Freddy gets a 5-second penalty, or sorry, a 3-second penalty again. So, penalties again are lots of fun, as we'll follow along here with the battle for third with these guys.
Yeah, the penalties are, I'm sitting in front of a 55-inch TV, and my screen is not big enough to see all the penalties that these drivers have taken. Not even to mention all the warnings. They have been, little bit here, a little bit there for track limits. So people have been speeding in the pit lane. People have been, speeding under the safety car. It's been a day for penalties for sure.
Yeah, but at least we haven't had a lot of collisions.
We haven't, surprisingly. It seems like Johnny is having more transmission issues a little bit on the upshift. I don't know if that's something physically with his wheel or if his car's playing up at all. Don't know what the deal on that is. He's using a ton of his energy though. At the end of the lap, he had full ERS. He's drained it down to 50%. That's the fastest third sector right there. Is the amount of energy he was able to use to catch Manuel up. He's really going to go for it here. They're both on fresh tires. This will be super crucial for whoever wins this race.
And Manuel just set a fastest lap time at 1:17.7 as Freddy jumps into the pits for his second set of inters, it looks like.
Johnny, though, taking about a 10th out of his best first sector, might be trying to outdo Manuel as he follows him trying to take the lead. He's really getting aggressive with him now. Blocks a little bit of a wheel as he keeps following Manuel through this tight second sector.
I feel like Johnny thinks if he can get in front of Manuel, he can hold on to the lead. It seems like in this race, Manuel's been in the lead. He's been setting the fastest time, sure, but he hasn't been that much faster than Johnny. And track position seems to be the bigger concern with about 11 laps to go.
Yeah, the fact that they've been fighting this whole race, though, doesn't surprise me at all with how close they were in qualifying. I mean, I think it was just a gap of 300ths. So the fact that their race lap times are so similar as well is really great. I would love to see what their cars are set up, and see how similar, maybe even how different to suit their driving styles their setups are. Here we go, we're lined up for a pass for the lead. Manuel takes the inside, Johnny trying to go around the outside into turn 1. After he sets the fastest lap, can he hold on? It looks like he can. Oh, boxes him out. Johnny takes the lead.
Beautiful move from Johnny.
Well, fight down the straight to catch back up. He's got a ton of ERS.
He does.
Draining all of it. Oh, backs out of it just to the last second.
And to your point, though, Manuel has his fuel light on. So what is that going to look like in the next 5 or 6 laps? Is that going to turn red? Is he going to run out? Has he been running rich this whole time and Johnny hasn't? If that's the case, Johnny might have a lot more pace, a lot more race pace than Manuel.
Yeah, if that's true, I know. I've watched Manuel. He's got a lot of ERS still in the tank, so there's a lot to play for power-wise on that front. If he's asked to run on lean mix for a lot of the rest of this race, he's going to fall like a stone. Tommy is about 8 seconds down the road, which is closer than somebody's been for third in a while. So if he's having problems with his fuel and has to drop back like that, I mean, there's a chance that Tommy could end up jumping up a step on the podium.
Right, and then the question becomes, can he hold on to a podium at all? Because we've seen Pepsi put in some pretty good laps here recently as Johnny almost dips into the 116s. And now that he is in front of Manuel, he's turned in back-to-back fastest laps. So maybe we're really finally... Maybe Johnny's just been kind of playing coy.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of pace. Pepsi, though, is still on his original set of inters.
I did not realize that.
He stopped on lap 9, so lap 10 was his first lap with inters. But he's still, I think his fastest lap was only like 4 or 5 laps ago. So he's still putting together relatively respectable times, though it's started to fall off a little bit in the last couple of laps. He may be looking to pit soon, and if he does, he may end up back maybe close enough that the Mercedes could have an attack on him. He may fall behind Freddie.
If you remember, Pepsi was the last one to pit to get that first set of enters, though. He kind of got shuffled out by that virtual safety car.
Big incident into the grass for a little bit, but he's back out now.
Lost a lot of time.
Lost 3 seconds. So it seemed like he just missed an upshift, honestly.
Yeah, and especially in the wet, if you miss an upshift and get on the gas, you're flirting with a tank slapper.
Yeah, he just in 4th gear he just spun up his rears and he was able to catch it and lift off quick enough, but it still sent him touching the grass a little bit, doing just the smallest bit of lawnmower action. So he's gonna be kicking himself for that because he's now down about 3 seconds.
So the closest battle on track right now is for 8th between Crudity and MFC Dawn. While Manuel was mowing the grass, we entered this slow section here, and Crudity had a chance but could not close the door on MFC Dawn. So the question...
Crudality, our penalty leader, is catching MCF Dawn, yeah.
Maybe he should get an award for that.
It's truly amazing how many seconds penalties he has. But if you look at the gap to BTR Storm, it doesn't even matter. BTR Storm is 40 seconds back on the leader, but crucially still in the points, which is good for him because he was 30 seconds behind on lap 1.
Manuel has entered the pits. Do you think he flat spotted those enders when he went off the track? Or is he trying to go to the slicks? Is this the point where we see somebody roll the dice?
I still saw it raining out there just the smallest bit.
He's going inters.
Like you can see it. No, never mind. It's not raining anymore.
He's serving a penalty, but he's going back to inters. It's an interesting strategy here.
Yeah, I would say the only reason I would really go on to slicks is if, in the last couple laps, you need to set the fastest lap and you have a gap to beat it.
Right.
Somebody like Crudality, who has a basically 2 pit stop gap. If he wants that other point to take his point total from 2 to 3, man, jump on the softs in the last lap and go for it. But it still looks a little too wet, especially if you need to make any type of overtake to get back in your position. Still looks too wet to run offline, especially on anything that's not an intermediate tire.
So we saw Pepsi finally come in and get his second set of enters. He dropped down to 6, right in that Mercedes range like you talked about for Freca. So Freca's, we have a yellow in section 1 as one of as Caridity goes off. Tough scene for him. But he has a huge gap to VRT Storm if you don't count all the penalties, as he's about to get lapped by Johnny anyway, as he gets a blue flag.
So the same lap Pepsi pitted, Manuel came in, served a bunch of his penalties, changed the front wing, and changed his wheels. So Manuel led from leading this race to 4th place now. He's setting fastest sectors. He's going to try to catch the Dosta, who's 5 seconds off the road. See if he can salvage the day and still end up on the podium. But that's a really rough break for him, because only 5 laps ago he was leading this race.
Caridity keeps triggering yellow flags as he takes his blue flag to get out of the way. Is 6 laps enough for Manuel to catch the Donsta though?
I mean, it could come down to the last lap. We've seen how quick Manuel is.
I picked up a penalty.
There was a pretty massive gap, and yeah, Manuel served a lot of his penalties. I don't know what penalties the Dostas served.
Right.
So those could come into play too. We could see a completely different finishing order when the penalties get factored in. Johnny's really driven an amazing race though. It was such a good qualifying performance. Obviously he didn't end up on pole, but he was...
Let's go, Johnny.
He was right there.
So close. And then, you know, making the overtake he needed to. He's made all the pit strategy work. I mean, he stopped, I think, 3 or 4 times. Stopped 3 times. So Manuel is on his 4th stop. So if he can end up on the podium with 4 stops, hats off to him. He deserves it.
Right, and he just...
The other person to do that many stops is VTR Storm.
And he just put in the fastest lap.
Manuel?
Yes.
With a really decent, really good lap, actually.
We got a safety car here as Freka has gone off in the Mercedes, a DNF. That's not what you want to see. I missed it
so
because...
Johnny is rounding the final 2 corners here. If I were him, jump into the pits.
Yeah, so Caridity just went on softs. He went on slicks. And Pepsi has to serve a drive-through penalty. So we have our first car on slicks, which is very interesting.
I mean, it looks pretty dry. I'm watching Johnny around the final turn. There's not that much spray.
If he's going in the pits.
It looks like Freka did a Kimi Räikkönen from...
Yeah, his front wheel was gone.
Just smashed into the pit straight wall coming up the hill. I don't know, maybe he was running a little bit into the wet patches to cool his tires. I don't know why that
He might have lost it, yeah.
Unless you did that.
So our leader's in the pits and he's on softs.
Yeah, Johnny on softs. Tommy is getting into the pits. He's going on to softs.
And MCF Don is on softs.
If softs are the wrong tire, is there anybody staying out?
No.
So
Freddie might stay out. Freddie's coming in. They're all coming in.
Like if I was like Crudality or like F1 or something, I might stay out.
I agree.
Because, you know, you gotta try something, and if softs end up being, if you can't heat up the softs or something like that, you're probably gonna end up pretty well. You're gonna jump a ton of people in the pits. If you can, you know, box them out and not let them overtake you, you might be in a pretty good place, especially with how many penalties these guys are gonna have to serve. The fact that they're doing it under the safety car is a huge advantage for those guys who have big penalties.
It looks like Epion is going to stay out, and to your point, if I'm in 8th, I'm going to get points. We had so many DNFs, I'm going to get points. So why not stay out? He is a lap down, so it'll be difficult for him to quote unquote win or get a podium maybe, but he could very easily catch a couple other guys in front of him and get some more points.
Yeah, it'll all be about his pace when the safety car ends. He'll only have a couple laps to make it happen, but he's got to push hard. I'm riding on board with F1 right now just to, you know, get a surface, like, or get a glance of the surface of the track. It looks pretty dry, so those soft runners look pretty good. But crucially, F1 did stay out. He made 2 places. So yeah, I don't know. He's up 6 places from where he qualified, but 4 people have DNF'd. So he's gained 2 true positions. through pace, which is always good to see.
He's going to have two guys in Storm and Critty on his tail with softs. If the track is as dry as it looks, he will be dead meat. And Cross Tommy has now caught up with Johnny under the safety car. So it's looking like the winner of our race, Johnny or Cross Tommy, will tie Freddie for the most wins in the league this year. And we haven't really said a lot about Cross today other than he's just been kind of driving a patient race.
Yeah, he's been just very consistent and very clean. He has not had to make like any ridiculous amounts of pit stops or any crazy strategy work. He's just kind of been there, right, kind of podium or podium about, in that third through fifth slot, and he's just kept his nose clean, and he finds himself with the opportunity to, you know, get a really great result for himself. The Dosta also doing a good job. He's up 2 places from his starting position.
Right.
And you know that's super impressive to see. So, riding back on board just to check with Manuel's fuel issue. His fuel issue. Seems like he running under the safety car has been good for him. Hopefully he's running on lean mix, which would be the smart thing to do. And it looks like he'll have enough fuel to run the rest of the race in normal fuel modes. He won't have to drop down and do the whole thing in lean, which is pretty crucial for his day. It's going to be very important if he wants to salvage, you know, the fact that he had the lead of the race earlier was a big deal. He's got to get past these guys if he wants to do anything about that. So
the top 4 are now bunched up behind the safety car, and Freddie is right there with them, but there is some lap traffic in front of him, although it is ghosted. The question is now, we might have 1 lap after the safety car goes in.
We might literally have 1 lap. So who's going to send it the most? I mean, I've heard that Freddie is apparently a very good overtaker.
Right.
He's in 5th, but it seems like in the safety car lineup, he's toward the back. So
there he is.
I don't know if they're going to let lapped cars go or not.
It looks like they are. Well, so right here we can see the top 6 right now, all the way back to Pepsi, are all in a line behind the safety car. And Epion has decided to pit, but my guess, to your point of who's going to send it, I would bet money on the Donsta. He's in a position that he hasn't necessarily found himself in a lot this year, but not because of talent, just bad luck. He was up there the last couple of weeks. He's been around the podium. This is a chance for him to win and jump up not only in the standings for the drivers, but to make Red Bull competitive. Red Bull is kind of in that middle tier of constructors' points right now anyway, so I'll keep an eye out on the Donsta. I think he might be the wild card here in this last little run.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. Hopefully he has the pace to do it. I don't know. He might be able to get Tommy. I don't know if I'm confident he'll be able to get Johnny, because Johnny's just been so quick. The other thing you have to watch out for is the pole man, the man fastest around here, is right behind him. And he's got the pole, like, Manuel's got fresh tires, he's got full ERS, he knows how to really send a lap around this place. And so if he can, and he's probably pretty, you know, got that red haze, that fury that he lost the lead. So I would actually say maybe the Dosta gets jumped as we get racing here again. Let's see what happens.
Here we go, back green.
Really close to Johnny. He's going to go for a pass for the lead.
He is. He's got him.
Ooh, and so does Manuel. Gets passed crucially into those podium places. The Donsta's dropping back a little bit.
Wow.
And Johnny may fall into the clutches, because it looks like
he squeezes the Williams down there.
Manuel has the speed down the back straight. I think he's going to send a move.
He is.
Do they touch? A little bit of contact, but I think we're all good.
Johnny had a slight lockup there.
Freddie has held position, but he's really close to the Donsta.
Wow.
Getting ghosted there.
What a bad restart for Johnny. That's unfortunate. He was in a perfect position. Cross just got him.
That's a nightmare scenario there. So Manuel's now got to get to work catching the Cross if he wants his race lead back. He's got the rest of this lap and 1 more to do it. I'm guessing he's going to have a really, really, really big push on this pit straight. He's going to try to dump all his fuel. He's out of ERS for the lap.
He is.
Back a little bit. Once he crosses the finish line,
He crosses out of ERS too. Cross runs a 110. Fastest lap.
What a lap from Cross. 6 seconds faster than the fastest lap we had on wets.
Johnny picks up another penalty. So again, penalties after all of that time and all the serving under the safety car still might be an issue.
3-second penalty. Johnny would literally find himself down in 8th.
Wow.
So there's also a massive gap to those guys who have not had great days. VTR Storm, Reality, and Epion. So on the plus side, VTR Storm and Epion are up 4 places both from where they started. But as we watch this battle for the league, it doesn't look like Manuel's going to be able to get it done.
It does not.
He's a lot happier now than when he was running in 4th place.
For sure. Yeah, Cross has really pushed this thing out a little bit. It's starting to look like it's going to be a 3rd straight win for Cross Tommy as he sets a purple sector 2. I'm not sure anybody can catch him here.
Manuel took the purple sector 2 as well, but it doesn't even matter because Cross Tommy's going to win this race.
For sure. And it'll be interesting to see who gets the fastest lap for that extra championship point. Cross Tommy, 3rd straight win in UNF1. Manuel with the fastest lap. Johnny up to 2nd with penalties.
Pepsi Freak takes 20 seconds unserved drive-through.
Wow. Drops him to 7th. So we got your final top 3 are Cross Tommy in 1st. Johnny in 2nd after the penalties for Manuel. Manuel 3rd. Manuel did set the fastest lap though.
Super impressive for all those guys. I think Manuel is going to be relatively happy he got back on the podium from his rough starting, or from his rough time right before the safety car happened. But, you know, he's going to be kicking himself that he lost that lead. But at the front, man, he didn't really luck in a lead because he made the moves to get it done. But that's not really, he was not looking at the race win at half distance at all.
Right.
He was probably 20 seconds back on the lead, but he just played the safety cars right, pitted when he needed to, and drove a great race.
Okay, that's his 3rd straight win. We will get the podium finishers in for an interview shortly. Our driver of the day, as you saw, was the Mercedes driver, MFC Don. He is the 2nd straight week we've had a Mercedes driver of the day, although keep in mind, he is under investigation for an incident through the stewards. That being said,
who came out with the most penalties?
Pepsi
Freak with a 20-second penalty.
Yes.
Take us over the edge. That's got to be its own championship in and of itself.
All right, let me invite these guys in here if you want to take it away while I do this.
All right, yeah. What a race. Watching them cross over, I will be very honest, had I been racing, I would have gotten the pit stops really wrong. But, man, they knew what tires to be on at what time, and that's the most important thing in that kind of race. So, looks like, let's see, who had very competitive fastest laps at the end? I mean, Johnny and Cross Tommy were both about 2/10 off.
Sorry, I got kicked.
And you're back.
All right, let me try to get Johnny. Let me try to get Johnny real quick. Oh my God. Alright, I'm going to work on Johnny here in a second, but we got Cross in here. Let's talk to Cross real quick. Cross, can you hear us?
Of course I can.
Are you
Heck
live?
yeah.
Alright, man, 3 in a row. Take us through that last restart into the safety car. 2 laps to go. You're sitting behind Johnny. What is your strategy there? Were you surprised you were able to get around him?
I wanted to get a very good restart on that, and I did. I put that ERS, put in a rich mix, slipstream and just flew right past him. And I didn't care who was behind me. I just went forward as usual.
And it was a beautiful overtake. It was clean. You did everything right, and then that last lap, you really started to pull away. We both thought maybe Manuel would push you a little bit. He did have the fastest lap, but you seem to have no trouble there. So it's 3 straight wins. You're climbing up in the standings. Kind of, what is your mindset right now?
Well, right now just keep going forward. Honestly, just use this momentum and just keep winning. Maybe keep getting podiums or getting points, whatever it will be.
I have to acknowledge this thing real quick of how much he sounds like Lance Stroll. I gotta say. And you were able to do what Lance Stroll didn't do, which was win the race today.
Win the race.
You did end up coming in like 8th, which is quite impressive.
Yeah.
So, Cross, how did it change for you when it went from wet to dry there? Did you have any hope while it was wet?
Well, I just followed like the Johnny. I'm pretty sure. I just followed Johnny. Whatever he pitted, I just pitted. So,
It's not a bad strategy.
yeah, honestly, it's really not a bad strategy. So yeah.
That's
But honestly,
awesome.
great racing. Everybody, great racing. Holy moly.
All right, man. Well, Cross, well, thank you, man, for joining us. Congrats on the win. Check out in a couple of hours on Instagram. We'll have the points updated, see where you land. A big win for you, 3 in a row. You've tied the record for the league with Freddie. So moving to next week, you might have a chance to overtake his win record.
Yes, thank you. I will try. I'll try.
All right, man.
I'll try.
Cool.
But thank you, everyone. Thank you. Honestly, thank you.
Hey, Johnny, how you doing, man?
Disappointed would be a way to put it.
I understand. Sorry about the confusion on the invite there. My PlayStation we weren't on the same page, but let's go back before the restart under the safety car. You were behind Manuel for a long time. We kind of got the vibe that maybe you were holding back a little bit until you jumped him, like you were waiting on track position maybe. Is that the case, or did you just find a little bit more in the tank there kind of in the last third of the race?
What I was planning on doing was just sitting behind him and waiting for him to either make a mistake or like drop off on the pace, because the rate he was going, I thought his tyres were going to drop off, so I knew I'd be able to catch him towards the end of the stint. That was my plan anyway.
Well, you were pretty right. He was having, and if you watch the replay, we think he was running on rich mix most of the race, and he had his fuel light on during his second pit stop, so that was kind of a weird strategy, we thought. But can you kind of tell us what happened on that safety car? That I know you hate safety cars, so what happened there?
The only reason why I hate safety cars is because it's just cost me that race win. I was 12 seconds clear when it came out. That's the only reason why I hate safety cars. Nothing happened on the restart, just with how long that back straight is. It's leading a safety car restart around Brazil is probably the worst place you can be. And
yes, I would agree with that 100%. And this is I think we've had a couple of all the safety cars we've had, I think you've led for most of them. You had that one, you did the very first safety car the league ever had. You led us back to the line. I think that might have been your very first race, actually.
Yeah, I think I had 2 in China, which is my first race.
So anyway, crazy. You're the safety car man. Have you, Jacob? You got any questions or any comments for him?
I mean, the strategy to just kind of wait behind until he made a mistake, especially when you have the amount of pace that you had, was probably a very smart thing. Were you with your setup? I noticed you seem to be like pretty quick on the straights. Did you prioritize that top speed when you were setting up the car in qualifying?
I kind of wanted to try and have a good mix of both, because I knew it was going to get dry towards the end. So I felt like having the grip into the corners wasn't quite as important towards the end of the race. So yeah, it was a bit more straight line speed than probably what most people had set up.
Yeah, it seemed like watching between, well, most of the race was between you and the Williams up front. He seemed to have more pace like in the second sector, but you would always kind of catch him up through the straights in the first and third sectors. So yeah, it was interesting to watch you guys kind of feel out the strategy. About when did you think like, okay, this is time for dry tires?
When the safety car came out. Basically, as soon as the safety car came out, I was in the pit for dries, because I felt like if the safety car hadn't come out, there might have been like 1 or 2 laps at the end where the dry tyres would have been like fine.
Yeah, we were thinking a similar thing.
Yeah, like probably like that 33 or 34 or something. The safety car would have, or the dries would have been faster.
Dang.
which is what ended up being the case.
Well, man, tough loss. You know, like I said, the safety car is the world changer, just like the wet. Congrats on your second place finish, though. I'm sure you'll catch Cross eventually. He'll make a mistake.
To be fair, it wasn't a mistake that won him, but fair play, he got the move done on track in the first corner, so credit to him, it was a good move.
All right, cool.
Can't really argue with that.
Thanks for joining us, Johnny, man.
No worries, lads, thank you.
Yeah, turn one was crazy to watch on the restart because you saw, you know, our eventual winner pass Johnny, but then right behind him, just similar to Brazil last year, where both Red Bulls kind of passed both, like it was both a Ferrari and a Mercedes for the lead. Right behind lead change, the Dosta got passed, so he lost his podium because of that.
Yeah, and it's easy to miss that, especially with the leader getting passed. But that's a tough break for the Dosta. He was right there. You hate to see it.
He was like focused on the guys in front to see if they would make a mistake.
Yeah.
Didn't even realize that he was, you know, getting or about to be passed by somebody pushing behind.
That's a good point. The restart's so difficult to watch the front and the back, and like, you know, a million people say you can't watch both. So that makes a lot of sense as to what happened to him there. That's kind of like, it's very easy to do if you're in that situation.
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right, man. Well, thanks everybody for watching. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week for round 12. Thanks, Jacob, for joining us, man. It was a good time. You did great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, happy to. This is my first time commentating on literally anything. It was a lot of fun. After we got started with some of our lobby issues, we were treated to a great race.
All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody. That ends the broadcast. Look for the highlights soon. Thanks, and goodbye.